Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Topic 6. So in this topic, we are going to look at India's major physiographic divisions, meaning the different kinds of landscapes, different kinds of areas or regions that India has. So if you look at it, there are 6 major physiographic divisions, okay? And these divisions, these 6 physiographic divisions are distinct from one another, okay? Meaning each of them are different from another. So the first one is the Great Mountains of the North. The second one, North Indian Plains. And the third one, Thar Desert. The fourth one, Peninsular Plateau. The fifth, Coastal Plains. And last, the sixth, Islands. So these are the 6 major features of the Indian landscapes. Now if you look at it, even when we see the 6 of them laid out in front of us, we can see that each one of them have distinct characteristics from the other. Like for example, the first one is the mountains of the north. The second one is the plain. So obviously the mountains are distinct from another physiographic division, which is the plains of North India. The third one, desert, which is uniquely different from the first 2 divisions that we just mentioned, which is mountains in the north and the Indian plains also of the north. So in the similar manner, when you look at the peninsular plateau, meaning the peninsular part of the Indian territory, okay, the Indian geography, which is the southern part of it, where the land mass, where the territory of India is surrounded by water on its 3 sides. In the earlier sections, we have gone through this particular term, which is peninsula, where I have told you that a peninsula becomes a peninsula only when the land mass is surrounded by water only on 3 sides, not on all sides. If the land mass is surrounded by water on all sides, then it becomes islands. Then it forms islands, okay? But if the land mass, or if the land, particular area, is surrounded by water on 3 sides, then it is called a peninsula. So the southern part of the Indian territory is called the peninsular plateau because of the presence of the formation of unique landscape, which is plateau, which looks like a table. Okay, and also it is called peninsular because it is surrounded by ocean and sea on 3 of its sides. So it is Bay of Bengal on the east, Arabian Sea on the west, and Indian Ocean in the south. Okay, and so the fifth one similarly is coastal plains. So the plains of the coastal areas of the southern part of the country. And the last one, islands. Okay, there are islands in our country as well. And so by this, what we understand is that these 6 major physiographic features or divisions are different from one another. That is why we look at it and we try to understand these features of the India's geography. Okay. So we will now look at the first physiographic division, which is the Great Mountains of the North. Now when we say the Great Mountains of the North, one should remember, or one should be quickly reminded of the Himalayas. What is the Great Mountain in the north? It is the Himalayas, the Himalayan Range. When we say the Himalayas, it does not mean one mountain. It means the range. That's why we call it the Himalayas. Okay, it is a long stretch of mountain range where lots of highest peaks, a number of highest mountain peaks in the world it is located in the Himalayas. Okay. Now, this Himalayas or the Himalayan range, which forms one of the unique feature of India's physiographic division, which is the Great Mountains, it is stretched, and the distance that it covers from east to west. It stretches from east to west, okay, from the eastern part, or you can also say from west to east. So the distance that it covers by stretching is 2400 kilometers. So you can imagine how long of a range it is. It is a very long range of mountains. Okay. Now, when we say that it is a long range of mountains, then what we can see is that we can see that it can be divided into three parts, or it can be divided according to which area or which site that it is located. Like for example, we can say the northwestern. So this is the north, right? The northern mountains. Okay. The great mountains of the north. So we know that the range is in the northern part of our country. So we see that some of its range lies or extends towards the west. So we can say the ranges that lie to the northwestern part of the Himalayan range. And we can in a similar manner say that it also extends towards the northeastern part of the country. Okay, so we can look at the range by focusing on its range that lies on the west, that lies to the east, and also the central part of it. Okay, so the range that lies in the central part of the whole range, that range lies between two important rivers, which is the Indus and the Brahmaputra rivers. Okay, so the range that lies in between these two rivers is the central range of the Himalayan range. Okay, and the range that lies to the west is Karakoram range. Okay, so that is the range that lies to the west, and those that lies to the east is the Naga Hills. Alright, so we can see that how the vast Himalayan range extends from Karakoram range in the west to Naga Hills in the east. Okay. Now, like I said, this Himalayan range is a extensive range. It's a long range of mountains which covers a distance of 2400 kilometers. Okay, so when we look at it, it is easier for us to understand the range when we divide it into sections. So here we are going to divide it into major sections, and we are going to look at each of these sections depending on which side or which direction it is located. So the first one that we are going to look at is the northwest range. Okay, so all this mountain range, the Himalayas, lie in the north. Now we will look at the western part of that northern Himalayan range. Okay, so the range that lies to the west is called Pamir Knot. Okay, now from this particular range, many other ranges emerge. Okay, so many ranges emerge from Pamir Knot in the northwestern range of the Himalayas. So these ranges which emerge from Pamir Knot are Hindu Kush, Kulun, Karakoram, Ladakh, and Jaskar. So these are ranges, mountain ranges, which lie in the western Himalayas, okay, which emerges from the Pamir Knot. Now in this western Himalayas, one of the highest peaks are Mount Godwin Austen, also popularly known as K2. Okay, so K2 is the second highest mountain in the world. Second highest mountain peak in the world. Okay. Now, this range of Himalayas, it has many passes. Okay, and these passes are areas from where people can move across the mountain range and reach the other side. But because of the terrain, because of this mountain range, these passes are not easy and most of them are blocked with snow, glacier, etc. Okay, so that is why there are only few passes in the entire mountain range where people can, by the use of which people can actually travel through the mountain range and reach the other side or come from other side to this side. Okay, so these few passes are known as Shipkila, Nathula, Bomdila. Okay, these are very popular and important passes, important Himalayan passes. Okay. Now, when we look at the western Himalayas, then there is one important pass which is located in the western range, and that is the Karakoram Pass. Okay, and in this western Himalayan range, there are also glaciers. Okay, glaciers, and they are Baltoro and Siachen. I'm sure you must have heard of this name, Siachen, right? It's quite popular. Our Indian Defence Station, our Indian Defence Force is also stationed there in Siachen, and it is one of the highest military base in the world. Alright, so these two are important glaciers which are located in the western Himalayas. Now, when I say glaciers, what are glaciers? We know what rivers are, right? Rivers are the course of water that flows down the course or on a plain area. Now, glaciers are just like rivers, but they are found in the mountains. So, these are slow moving rivers. Slow moving rivers of not water but ice and snow. Okay, so the ice is turned into a river form and they move, but the movement is so slow that we can barely see it, that we can barely feel it, but they keep moving. Okay, so they are called glaciers. They are found in the Himalayas, they are found in the mountain ranges. Now, the second division of the Himalayan range is the Northern Himalayan range or the Northern Arc. Now, this is the central part of that range that we are going to look at. Before this, we looked at the Western Himalayas. Now, we are going to look at the Central Himalayas. Now, this portion of the Himalayan range is called Great Northern Himalayas, apart from being called Northern Himalayan Range or the Northern Arc. Okay, this Great Northern Himalayan Range, it extends from Kashmir in the west and Assam in the east. Okay, so it is again another long stretch of range in the central part of the Himalayan range. Now, this Himalayan range is again bordered by other smaller ranges. Okay, in the west it is bordered by Nanga Parvat, which is towards Kashmir, and in the east it is bordered by Namcha Barwa. Okay, and apart from these mountain ranges, two important rivers So, like the mountain ranges which borders the west and the eastern part of this great northern Himalayan range, there are two rivers which also borders it in the east as well as in the west. So, they are the Indus River and the Brahmaputra River. So, these two rivers are two important rivers which borders and which also constitutes as two important rivers of this central or the great northern Himalayan range. Now this great Himalayan great northern Himalayan range also can be divided into few divisions so that we can understand its characteristics. Okay, the first one is called Himadri. Now this is the northernmost range of that particular great northern Himalayan range. Okay, so you can imagine that this is the great northern Himalayan range. We have said that this particular range to the west emerges from Pamir Knot and Karakoram range is one of those, right? So now we are looking at the great northern Himalayan range. Now this Himalayan range, as you know, as we know, consists of various mountain ranges. It consists of highest mountain ranges, middle mountain ranges and the low mountain ranges. Okay, so now we are talking about Himadri. So Himadri is the northernmost range of this particular range. Alright, so the northernmost is called Himadri. So this shaded one is called Himadri. Okay, this is also called Inner Himalayas because it lies in the innermost segment of the Himalayan range. Okay, so if this is the outer, middle, inner, alright, so this is also called the Inner Himalayas. Now this Himalayas, which is the innermost as well as the northernmost range of the great northern Himalayan range, this has the highest peaks, mountain peaks that exist in the world. So they are Mount Everest, Kanchenjunga, Nanda Devi and Nanga Parvat. Okay, we know Mount Everest is the highest mountain peak in the world. Okay, now when we come lower from Himadri, then the next range is the middle or the lesser Himalayas. So this obviously, like the name suggests, it lies to the south of Himadri. So Himadri was the inner or the northernmost range of Great Northern Himalayan range. Now in the south of Himadri lies the middle or lesser Himalayas. Okay, so the ranges, the names of the ranges of this middle or lesser Himalayas are Mahabharat, Dhauladhar and Pir Panjal. These are the names of the mountain ranges. Okay, and in this mountain range or the middle or lesser Himalayan range, there are many popular hill stations, okay, which we all have heard of. Some of us have even visited or lives there. Alright, so they are Mussoorie, Shimla, Dalhousie, Nainital, Darjeeling and Dharamshala. So these are popular hill stations which are located in the south of Himadri or the middle or lesser Himalayan range of the Himalayas. Okay. Now the third range of the great northern Himalayan range is called the Shivalik range. Now this range is the outer Himalayas or the southernmost range of the Himalayas. Okay. Now this range has low-lying hills. These have hills. Okay. The other two had mountains, but this range, Shivalik range, has low-lying hills. Okay, and these hills are made of sand, clay, and rounded stones. Okay, and because this particular range of the Himalayas have low-lying hills, there are many valleys in this range. In this Himalayan range, one of the important characteristics or one of the unique characteristics, different characteristics of this Himalayan Shivalik range is that it consists of many valleys, and these valleys are called dunes. Okay, they are not just any valleys, they are called dunes. That is why there are places after the name of the valleys, and they are Dehradun, Patidun, etc. Okay, this is because they lie in such a landscape which is called dunes, and from the name of the landscape the name of the place has been derived. Okay, now some of the hills that lie in this region are Jammu Hills in Jammu and Kashmir, Dolfa, Miri, Abor and Mishri Hills in Arunachal Pradesh, Dundara and Churia Ghat Hills in Nepal. Okay, so these are some of the important hills that lie in this region, which is the Shivalik range of the Himalayas. Now, one of the characteristics, or already we said one of the special characteristics of this range, Shivalik range, is that there are valleys, right, because of the low-lying hills, and these valleys are called dunes. Another characteristics or another feature of this particular range is that occurrence of landslide, of natural calamity called landslide, is very common. Okay, so landslides occur or take place in this Shivalik range very frequently. It is very common in this region to have or experience landslides, and these landslides are natural calamities, which means that it is not good for the people. It destroys lives, it destroys houses, property, lands, it blocks the road, so it hampers the daily life of the people as well as the animals. Alright, so landslides are very common in the Shivalik range of the Himalayas. Now that was the central or the great northern Himalayas. Now we move from the central to the eastern part of the Himalayas, and in the eastern part of the Himalayas, that range is called northeastern Himalayan range or Purvanchal. Okay, so we looked at the western, we looked at the central, now we are looking at the eastern part of the Himalayas. Now this eastern part of the Himalayas, which is called Northeast Himalayan range or Purvanchal, it covers areas or regions of Indian states which are Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, Assam, Mizoram and west of Meghalaya. Okay, so these are the states of India that comprises of the northeastern Himalayan range. Now in this there are many hills. Okay, in this range there are many hills, and they are Patkai Bum, Naga Hills, Mizo Hills, Jaintia, Khasi and Garo Hills. These are the important hills that lie in the range, this range of eastern Himalayas, which is called Northeast Himalayan range or Purvanchal. Okay, now in this part of the Himalayan range, one of the rivers that is very important and plays a very important role is the Brahmaputra river. Okay, now this Brahmaputra river is also known as the Hang in the northeast. We will look at its name in a much more detailed manner later. Okay, now this Himalayas, okay, the Himalayan range, when we look at it from east to west, then we can divide it into four main divisions. Okay, four main general divisions. The first is Nepal Himalayas. Okay, the Himalayas which are basically covering the country of Nepal. Now this Himalayan range is between two rivers. They are Kali and Tista. Okay, after that the another Himalayan range that we can divide the entire range is Assam Himalayas. Now this Himalayan range lies between another two rivers which are Tista and Dihang. Dihang, if you just go back to what we learned about Brahmaputra river, so Dihang is another name given to Brahmaputra river. So do not get confused. Okay. River. And apart from Nepal Himalayas, Assam Himalayas, the third division is the Western Himalayas, the Himalayas in the west. And this range of Himalayas is located between two rivers which are Satluj and Indus. Okay, and the fourth one is the Punjab Himalayas. Now this range of Himalayas, they cover the area of Jammu and Kashmir, the state of Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh. Okay, so this is how we can also divide the Himalayan range according to where they are located, which area of South Asia they occupy, and also according to what rivers border them. Okay. Now another two popular hill stations, okay, are Gulmarg and Pahalgram. These are also popular hill stations from the Himalayan range, and these are located in the Pir Panjal range of the Himalayas. Alright. So here is a map of the northern part of India, and then here you can see how the Himalayan range extends from here, Hindu Kush in the west and the Naga Hills, Pokai Hills in the east. Okay, so you can see the ranges vary according to the altitude, the height of them. Alright, so the inner Himalayas lie on the northernmost part, and the lesser Himalayas, they lie in the middle, and the Shivalik range on the southernmost part of the range. Okay, so here you can see the Garo Khasi hills in the east. You can also see Ladakh range, Jaskar range in the west, and then the middle or the central or the great northern Himalayan range. So you can see the extent of this Himalayan range that covers such a vast area, that covers such a long distance. Okay, and also that constitutes the highest peaks, mountain peaks in the world. So you can see K2 here, Mount Everest here, and Kanchenjunga here. Okay, so you can take a look at this map on your own and find out some of the important mountain ranges of the Himalayas, some of the important and highest mountain peaks that fall in this Himalayan range, and you can also see the rivers, the Brahmaputra river, okay, the Ganges, the Ganga river, alright, the Indus river, alright. So all the rivers that we mentioned while we were learning about the Himalayas, you can also find all of those in this map and also make your understanding even more clearer. So that was the number one physiographic division, which is the great mountains of the north. Now the second physiographic division that we are going to look at is the North Indian plains. So we looked at the mountains. Now we will look at the plains. Now the North Indian plains, it lies between the peninsular India and the Himalayas. So basically The Himalayas lie in the north. The plains lie in the south of the Himalayas, and then in the south of that plains lie the peninsular India. So the plains lie between the mountains, the Himalayas, and the peninsular India. Alright, so this middle portion is called the North Indian Plains. These plains consist of alluvial soil, or this plain is also called alluvial plains. We will look at why it is called alluvial a little later. And this plain is formed by three important rivers. They are Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra. So these three rivers, as we just learned, they flow through the mountains. They flow through the Himalayas. As they flow through the Himalayas, they come down to the plains and then they bring alluvium and deposit it in this portion of the land of the Indian territory. Okay, so this deposit over time forms the alluvial plains or the North Indian plains. Okay, now the alluvium consists of the soil which is very fertile. And they consist of sand, silt and clay. All these are brought by the rivers as they flow down from the Himalayas to the plains. And as they bring these sand, silt and clay, alluvium basically, they deposit it at the base of the mountain. And by depositing it over years and years and years and years, what formed the North Indian plains. Okay. Now this North Indian plains is also called Indo-Gangetic lowland. Okay. And this lowland, this area forms a sort of an arc. Now arc meaning from here, which extends, which has like a circular half moon kind of a format, okay, or the shape. So it forms like an arc and stretches from the west to the east. And in the west there is Arabian Sea, in the west there is Arabian Sea, and the east there is Bay of Bengal. So this arc of Indo-Gangetic lowland, they extend from Arabian Sea in the west to Bay of Bengal in the east, and it thus forms an arc. Alright. Now this plain, if you look at it, is again bordered by various rivers. In the west, the rivers that borders this plain, they are Ravi, Beas and Satluj. Now if you look at these rivers, they are tributaries of Indus. Now what are tributaries? Tributaries are rivers which join the main river. Okay, so if this is the main river which flows in this direction, then the tributaries join and come together with the main river. So these A, B, C, D, they are all tributaries. Okay, so Ravi, Beas, Satluj are tributaries of the Indus River, and these tributaries form the western boundary of the plains. Okay, in the center and the east, there are other rivers, and these rivers are Yamuna, Gandak and Kosi. Again, these rivers are tributaries of Ganga. They are important rivers of the central and eastern part of the great North Indian plains. Okay. Further east, if you go further east, beyond the river Kosi, then we find Brahmaputra river and its tributaries. which come and then help in the formation of the North Indian plains. Okay. Now if you look at Brahmaputra, I was telling you a little while ago how Brahmaputra is known with different name in the northeast. Okay. Now we will look at how Brahmaputra is called with names other than Brahmaputra in different parts of the northeastern part of the country. Okay. Now Brahmaputra is called Sangpo in Tibet. Okay. Brahmaputra is the name that we call the river with in India. But if you go to Tibet, then the same river is called Sangpo. If you go to Arunachal Pradesh, the same river Brahmaputra is called Dihang. Okay. And in Assam, it is called Brahmaputra. But again in Bangladesh, it is called Jamuna. Okay. So you can see how the same river is named differently or called differently in different parts of our country and in the neighboring countries. Okay. Now this river Brahmaputra is an important river in the far eastern part of our country. Okay. And it is also an important river which plays important role in the formation of the Great North Indian Plains. Now this river has many tributaries. Okay. So along with the tributaries, okay, it helps in the formation of plains. So the tributaries also play an important role in the formation of plains, meaning in the deposit of clay, silt, sand, in the deposit of alluvium, just like the main river. Okay, so both the tributaries and the main river deposit alluvium over time, and that leads to the formation of plains. Okay, Ganga and Brahmaputra, they meet in Bangladesh. Okay, so Ganga flows from North India and then crosses West Bengal and enters Bangladesh. Brahmaputra flows through Tibet and then Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, and then enters Bangladesh. Okay. Now when these two join, this is Ganga and then this is Brahmaputra. When they join in Bangladesh, this river is called Padma. Okay, Padma. Now this Padma, which is basically Ganga and Brahmaputra forming one river, this plays an important role in another formation. Okay, formation of another unique landscape, and that is triangular shape delta. Okay, so they form triangular shape delta. So this river then distributes. Okay, they distribute and then land masses are formed which is in the shape of triangle. So many triangular shapes of lands are formed because the river goes through it. Okay, now these triangular shaped delta, they are called delta. These triangular shaped delta are called Sundarbans, and Sundarbans are the biggest delta in the world. Alright, so we saw that how tributaries and distributaries of the rivers, they form unique shapes of land masses, and this unique shape is triangular in shape and they are called deltas, and these deltas are called Sundarbans in our country, and the Sundarbans form the biggest deltas in the world. Now we will look at these three great rivers, which are Ganga, Indus and Brahmaputra. Now these three rivers are great rivers. Okay, they are the biggest rivers. These rivers, we all know, they flow from the Himalayas. Okay, so they are fed by glaciers. The water that they are fed by the slow moving rivers of ice. Okay, and these are permanent rivers, meaning they never dry up, meaning that the water of the river never dries up. I don't know if you noticed, or if you have noticed or not, some of the rivers are not permanent rivers. They are seasonal rivers. For example, during the monsoon, you will see that those rivers are roaring. The water in those rivers are roaring, and then the water level rises up. But during winter, you'll notice that the water has dried up. There is not a single drop of water in that river. Okay, it looks as if the river in that area did not exist. Okay, these are not permanent rivers, they are seasonal rivers. But the permanent rivers are those rivers where the water never dries up. Okay, have you seen the Ganges, the Ganga dry up? Have you heard of Brahmaputra dry up? They never dry up. Okay, they are permanent rivers. The water in the river, they never dry up. Of course, it may become the amount of water may decrease and increase, okay, but it never dries up. Now these rivers, we know, as they flow through the Himalayas, they bring alluvium. Okay, and this alluvium is deposited at the base of the Himalayas, at the base of the hills and the mountains, and that deposit leads to the formation of this North Indian plains. Okay, now this plains, which is basically alluvium, okay, alluvium, that is very fertile soil. Okay, so the soil quality of this area, the plains, become very rich. And when the soil is very rich, that means the cultivation becomes very good in that area. The rice, the crops that are grown in this area, they yield good harvest, okay, because of the soil quality in this area. Okay, and this area, because of their rich soil, has also seen one of the oldest civilization, human civilization, which is the Indus Valley civilization. Because of this area being rich and fertile and fed with rivers, people settled here because they could grow their crops. They had all the basic necessities they needed to build their civilization, to have a livelihood. So the Indus Valley civilization also took place or emerged in this particular part of the country. Okay, so obviously when the soil is rich, the crops also become very rich, in the sense the yield of these areas have good harvests. Okay, now as these alluvium are deposited at the base, and as the plains are formed by the help of the rivers, these deposits take different forms. Okay, as the deposits are happening, they not all the time form the plain area good for cultivation. They take different shapes, they take different forms. Okay, so some of the important forms that these deposits take are alluvial fans, channel bars, levees, and flood plains. Okay, so these are some some distinct formations of deposits, alluvium deposits, that take place with the help of the river, which brings the alluvium and deposits. Okay. Now apart from these, there are also formations of islands as a result of the rivers depositing the alluvium. These islands are formed with deposits of mud and silt over time, right? If the rivers flow and they keep depositing the silt and alluvium, then an island is formed. Okay, and when that island is formed, then the river takes a detour. Okay, now they can't cross this deposited alluvium. Okay, they can't flow over the deposits of mud and silt. So what they do, the water of the river distributes and goes around this island and again continues to flow. Maybe in the same direction, sometimes in the different direction. Okay, now this distributed water of the same river is called distributaries. I hope you remember tributaries. So tributaries are those rivers which join the main river. If this is the main river, then the tributaries join this. Okay, but the distributary, imagine distributing the water of the river. So the distributaries distribute the water of the main river into different channels. So the rivers which do not join and go away from the main river, they are called distributaries. Okay, so the islands are formed as a result of the main river depositing silt and mud over time and the river distributing into two different or many river distributaries. Okay. Now the plains of North India is also a vast area, is also a vast region, and it covers 3,200 kilometers. Okay, that's the area that it covers. Now it's a vast area, right? Here are the northern Great Himalayas. Now this area of the plains, this if you look at, if you go towards the east, it gets narrower, okay, and it gets broader if you come towards the center, okay, from the east, but towards the east it gets narrower, and this plain can be divided into the river system, okay, can be divided because of the role played by the rivers. We already said that three rivers that play important role in the formation of these plains, and those are the Ganges, those are the Brahmaputra and the Indus. So we can also divide this area into two divisions depending upon the rivers that play a role in it. The first one is the Indus river system and the second one is the Ganga Brahmaputra river system. So in the western part of this plain, the North Indian plain, the Indus river system plays an important role in its formation. But if you go towards the east, then the two rivers which play an important role is the Ganga and Brahmaputra river. Okay. Now the soil deposits that these rivers contribute to, the soils that are deposited in these areas, the vast plain areas, are also different. They are not of same type. They are of different type. Okay. Some are marshy, some are very hard, some are softer, some are new, some are old, where the deposits have been taking place since many thousands of years. Okay, so depending on the soil, the region also is different. Okay, now let us look at these different regions which are formed as a result of the deposits. So there are four main regions. The first one is called Khadar. Now this Khadar is that region in the plain where the alluvium that is deposited are younger, meaning that the alluvium deposits are new. It's not old. That has not been depositing since many thousands of years. Okay. The second one is called Bangar. Now this is the region in the plain where the alluvium deposit is very old. It is not young, it is not recent, but the deposits have been deposited for many thousands of years. Okay. The third one is called Tarai. Now this area or this region in the plain is wet and marshy area, and because of this region being wet and marshy, this region has thick forests and wildlife which is of varied kinds. Different kinds of wildlife, different kinds of animals, different kinds of birds, because of the thick forest that this region leads to the formation of. Okay. And the fourth region is called the Bhabar. Now this Bhabar is a pebbled area. Okay. This pebbled area lies along the slope of the river bed. So as the river flows parallelly, these pebbled beds are also formed, and these are pebbly, meaning lot of pebbles and stones are found in this particular region. So this region is called Bhabar. But remember, these are all result of the deposits of alluvium by the river system of Indus, Ganges and Brahmaputra. Okay. Now the third physiographic division of India is Thar Desert. So we just looked at the mountains, the Himalayas, and then we looked at the plains, and the third one is the desert. Okay. Now the desert, which is called the Thar Desert, is also known as the Great Indian Desert. Now the Great Indian Desert, it is situated in the northwestern part of our country. Okay, towards Rajasthan. So the area that it covers are eastern Pakistan and Rajasthan. So that portion of area of Pakistan as well as India is called Great Indian Desert or the Thar Desert. Okay. Now the desert is also bounded, or it is also limited by certain rivers and certain ranges. Okay. Not mountain ranges, but the ranges of hills. In the northwest, it is bounded by Satluj River. And in the east, it is limited by Aravalli Range, another range of hills which we will look at in the next section. And in the south, there is Rann of Kutch, which is in Gujarat. And in the west is the Indus River. So you can see around in the surrounding areas of the Thar Desert lies two rivers and two distinct landscapes. One is Rann of Kutch and the other is Aravalli Hills. Okay. Now one of the important features of the Thar Desert is the existence of a rolling sand hills. So there are sand hills. Okay, they are called rolling sand hills. So that is one of the important characteristics. And the next one is that of the vegetation. The vegetation, of course, we know deserts are very dry and arid. Right, they are not fertile. Their vegetation, crop growing, crop cultivation is not easy like the plains in North India. Okay, so the vegetation is very less, and we can also see rock outcroppings, meaning in the rocky areas there are some vegetation existing. Okay, and this desert area, the Thar Desert area, receives sparse rainfall, meaning very little rainfall. So the area, this region is very dry, and in the summers, in the month of July, it can be extremely hot. Okay, now the people who live in that area, what do they do? What do the people living in the Thar Desert area do? Most of the people engage themselves in pastoral activities. Now, what are pastoral activities? They take care of animals, okay, and they trade the products, the produce of the animals, like for example milk, skin, hide of the animal, meat of the animals, okay, so sheep, cow, buffalo, etc. Now pastoral means that they take care of the animals and uh, they sell and trade the produce of these animals, but at the same time they are constantly moving from one place to another. Okay, now as they move in groups and they take their animals, they take their cattle, they take all their chicken, they take all their sheep and cows and etc. Okay, so they keep on moving from one place to another, and as they move they carry on, they continue to take care of the animals, they continue to sell and they continue to trade the produce of the animals. So they are engaged in the industries such as hide and wool industry, because they are pastoral communities who deal with pastoral activities, and they take care of sheep, they take care of cow, etc. So they get wool from the sheep, hide from the cow or buffalo, and then they sell these to the industries, and they also sell or manufacture these produce. Okay, so these are the activities which the people living in the Thar Desert engage themselves with. These are the occupations of the people living in the Thar Desert.